Hi, everyone. My name is Flual Lingo, and I'm a pastry chef who also teaches baking classes on weekends. I live alone with my rescue dog Milo in a small studio apartment above my grandmother's old bakery, which I inherited last year. Every day feels like a small adventure, and I'd love to share my routine with you. My day starts at 4:30 a.m. I know it sounds crazy early, but there's something magical about the world before sunrise. I don't use an alarm clock anymore because Milo has become my natural alarm. He gently nudges my face with his cold nose exactly at 4:30 every morning. It's like he has an internal clock. I always whisper, "Good morning, buddy," and give him a soft pat before stretching in bed. The first thing I do is look out my small window to see if there are stars still visible. It helps me predict how the day will feel. Instead of rushing to the bathroom, I spend 2 minutes doing breathing exercises that my yoga teacher taught me last month. It centers my mind before the busy day ahead. Then I tiptoe to the bathroom. My upstairs neighbor works night shifts and I don't want to wake her up. I splash cold water on my face, which always makes me gasp a little, and brush my teeth while doing small calf raises. My grandmother used to say, "Never waste a moment," and I think she'd be proud of my multitasking. Here's something quirky about me. I talk to myself in the mirror every morning. Not in a crazy way, but I give myself a little pep talk. Luna, today you're going to create something beautiful. Someone's going to smile because of your croissants. It sounds silly, but it genuinely makes me feel more confident and purposeful. My shower routine is quick, but intentional. I use homemade lavender soap that I craft myself. It's one of my hobbies that started during the pandemic. While shampooing my hair, I mentally plan which pastries I'll bake first based on the weather. Rainy days call for cinnamon rolls, sunny days inspire fruit tarts. The smell of lavender always reminds me of my grandmother's garden, and sometimes I get a little emotional thinking about how she'd react to seeing me running her bakery. Getting dressed is simple but meaningful. I always wear my grandmother's silver bracelet. It's my daily connection to her wisdom. My work clothes are practical, comfortable jeans, a soft cotton t-shirt, and my favorite apron that has flour stains that will never come out completely. Those stains tell the story of 1,000 breads, and I wear them with pride. By 5 a.m., Milo and I head downstairs to the bakery. He has his own little bed behind the counter where he supervises my work. The first thing I do is turn on the ovens and let them preheat while I prepare coffee. But not just any coffee, I make a special blend with cinnamon and a tiny bit of vanilla that fills the entire bakery with the most incredible aroma. This smell has become my signature, and regular customers tell me they can smell it from 2 blocks away. While sipping my coffee, I review my daily baking list and check special orders. Yesterday, Mrs. Chen ordered a birthday cake for her granddaughter who's turning 5 and loves unicorns. Today, I'll create something magical for that little girl. These personal connections with customers make every early morning worth it. My baking starts with bread because it needs the most time. I measure flour by hand rather than using a scale. My grandmother taught me to feel the texture and adjust based on humidity. As I knead the dough, I often think about the hundreds of hands that have touched the same wooden counter. There's something deeply meditative about kneading. It's like a morning prayer that connects me to generations of bakers. Around 6:30, while the bread rises, I start on pastries. Croissants are my specialty, and rolling the butter into the dough requires patience and precision. I've developed my own technique over the past year. I play soft jazz music and roll to the rhythm. It sounds crazy, but it works. The croissants turn out flakier and more consistent when I bake with music. Something unexpected happened last Tuesday that changed my routine slightly. A young father came in with his 3-year-old daughter, and she was fascinated watching me roll croissant dough through the window. Her eyes were huge with wonder. Now, every Tuesday, I make sure to do the more visual preparation tasks near the window around 7 a.m. because I learned that's when she walks to daycare with her dad. Seeing her excited face has become a highlight of my week. At 7 a.m., I flip the sign to open and unlock the front door. The morning rush begins, but it's not stressful, it's energizing. My regular customers have become like family. There's John, who orders the same everything bagel with cream cheese and always shares a dad joke. Maria stops by for her cortado and an almond croissant for her nursing shift. And Mrs. Patterson, who's 89 years old, comes in every day for tea and a small apple turnover and always stays to chat for exactly 12 minutes. Between customers, I continue baking and restocking the display case. I've learned to read people's moods and sometimes suggest pastries based on how they look. Someone having a rough morning might need a chocolate chip muffin, while someone celebrating gets steered toward our special lemon bars. It's like being a pastry therapist. Around 10:30, the morning rush calms down, and I use this time for special projects. Today, I'm experimenting with a new recipe, lavender honey scones, inspired by a dream I had last week. Baking is creative expression for me, and some of my best recipes come from unusual inspiration. Last month, I created autumn sunset tarts after watching a particularly beautiful sunset from my apartment window. At 11:30, I take my first real break. Milo and I walk around the block, and I always bring a small bag to collect interesting leaves, flowers, or even unusual stones that might inspire future cake decorations. My neighbors think I'm eccentric, but I believe inspiration is everywhere if you pay attention. This walk also helps me gauge the neighborhood mood. If I see many stressed people, I'll put out free sample cookies in the afternoon. Lunch is usually something simple that I eat while working. I'll grab a sandwich from the deli next door, or sometimes I'll create a quick salad with ingredients I keep in the small fridge upstairs. But here's my secret. I always eat lunch while writing in my recipe journal. I document not just ingredients and measurements, but also the story behind each creation, the weather that day, and how the recipe made me feel. This journal is becoming a memoir of my baking journey. The afternoon brings different energy. Students from the nearby college come in for study fuel, and I've learned that they need Wi-Fi, comfortable seating, and pastries that aren't too messy. I created study stack muffins specifically for them. Compact, nutritious, and delicious. Watching these young people pursue their dreams reminds me of my own journey, from corporate marketing, my previous life, to this beautiful, flower-dusted existence. Around 2 p.m., I start preparing for tomorrow's baking. This involves checking inventory, placing orders with suppliers, and beginning prep work for items that need overnight rising. But my favorite part is testing new recipe ideas. I keep a curiosity jar where I write down flavor combinations that intrigue me. Today I pulled out rosemary chocolate chip cookies. Sounds weird, but my instincts tell me it could be magical. The late afternoon brings my most cherished customers, children getting out of school. I've created a small section of kid-friendly treats. Animal-shaped cookies, mini cupcakes with happy faces, and magic cookies that change color slightly when you bite them. Food coloring trick, but they don't need to know that.
Watching kids' faces light up when they see these treats reminds me why I love this work so much. At 4 p.m., I begin the closing routine. But it's not just cleaning, it's reflection. I wipe down counters while thinking about the day's interactions. Did I make someone smile? Did I solve a problem with the perfect pastry recommendation? I've learned that running a bakery isn't just about food. It's about creating moments of joy in people's ordinary days. I close the bakery at 5 p.m., but my day isn't over. 3 evenings a week, I teach baking classes in the small space behind the main bakery. Tonight is bread basics for beginners, and I'm excited because one of my students is a teenager whose grandmother recently passed away. She wants to learn to make her grandmother's dinner rolls from memory. These classes often become therapy sessions where people share stories while kneading dough. After the class ends at 7:30, I finally head upstairs to my apartment. The first thing I do is give Milo his dinner and a good belly rub while telling him about the day's highlights. Then I change into comfortable clothes, usually soft leggings and an oversized sweater that belonged to my grandmother. Dinner is my creative time in a different way. I cook simple, healthy meals, but I experiment with techniques I might adapt for baking. Tonight I'm roasting vegetables with herbs from my small balcony garden. While cooking, I often call my parents, who live across the country. They worry about me living alone and running a business, but when they hear the happiness in my voice, I can feel their worry transforming into pride. My evenings vary depending on my energy and mood. Sometimes I read cookbooks like novels, getting lost in the stories behind famous recipes. Other nights, I work on my secret project, writing a cookbook that combines recipes with the stories of my customers and the community around the bakery. On particularly creative evenings, I sketch ideas for cake designs or plan seasonal menu changes. But my favorite evening activity is something I started 3 months ago. I write thank you notes, not for special occasions, but just to acknowledge people who made my day better. Tonight, I'm writing to the mail carrier who always stops to pet Milo, and to the elderly gentleman who helped me carry flour bags last week. I've discovered that gratitude, when written down and shared, creates ripples of kindness that come back in unexpected ways. Around 9:30, I start winding down. I take a warm bath with Epsom salts to soothe my feet and back from standing all day. While soaking, I listen to podcasts about small business success stories or audiobooks about history. I'm currently learning about medieval baking techniques. The bath is my transition from work Luna to personal Luna. Before bed, I have a ritual that grounds me. I write 3 things in my gratitude journal: something that made me smile, something I learned, and something I'm excited about for tomorrow. Tonight, I'm writing about the little girl who pressed her nose against the window, about learning that rosemary actually pairs beautifully with dark chocolate, and about tomorrow's challenge of creating that unicorn birthday cake. I prepare for the next day by setting out my clothes and checking the weather forecast. If it's going to rain, I'll add extra cinnamon rolls to tomorrow's baking list. I also spend a few minutes reviewing my recipe journal, sometimes discovering forgotten ideas that suddenly seem perfect for tomorrow's experiments. Finally, I get into bed with Milo curled up at my feet. Instead of scrolling through my phone, I read a few pages of poetry or short stories. Tonight I'm reading a collection about women who changed their lives after 30. It reminds me that choosing to leave marketing to become a baker was brave, not crazy. Reading helps quiet my mind and transition from the day's activities to peaceful sleep. As I drift off around 10:30, I often think about how different my life is now compared to 2 years ago when I was sitting in corporate meetings dreaming of flour and butter. I sometimes miss the financial security of my old job, but I never miss the feeling of living someone else's dream instead of my own. This routine isn't just about managing a bakery. It's about creating a life that feels authentic and meaningful. Every early morning, every perfectly golden croissant, every customer's smile is a choice to build something beautiful from scratch. And tomorrow, I'll wake up at 4:30 a.m. with Milo's gentle nudge, look for stars in the window, and begin again. Because this routine isn't just what I do, it's who I've become.